Okay, perfect. Hi there. My name is Shelley Guy, and I work as a director of community engagement and events coordinator, and the director of artistic sign language for an artistic sign language production company called Body Language Productions. And I'm also a performer and a deaf interpreter, and work very closely with a nonprofit organization called Up Until Now Collective. So I want you guys to all understand what a director of artistic sign language means too. And the acronym is a DAZZLE. And so that means that when I get a song, I'll look at the lyrics and I'll work with an interpreter really closely, a hearing interpreter, to understand the meaning and the metaphor behind all of the lyrics. And then we work with the artist, the singer themselves, personally, the person who wrote the song, hopefully, and we work together to translate the process and the metaphor of what the song actually means, because in sign language you don't sign things word for word. A lot of people get confused with that. So interpreters don't just go on stage and sign just the words. That's not how it goes. So DAZZLEs, directors of artistic sign language, help interpreters understand what songs mean.
Great. And then what was your experience with music like as a deaf person, before this experience? And, how much were you able to hear or experience or when you went to concerts?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. So before the vests, I would always say that the people around me were my music. And what I mean by that is I would see how other people dance and I would kind of pick up on the beat like that and reflect their dancing. If someone was moving, then I would watch their body movements and I would copy them. Sometimes in a concert, I'll move closer to the stage or to the speakers so I can feel the bass. That's usually pretty important. And as for performing on stage, I would not rely on the vibrations on the floor because you can't really feel the vibrations through the floor on the stage, but I rely a lot on counting, especially as a dancer. So it's like if I know what the beat is and I'm like, okay, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it's an 8 count, and then I can rely on that, of course. Memorizing movement, feeling the movement of other people around me, cues. And I also use lights as cueing systems to help me pick up dance moves and movement on stage and music.
So you talked about your experience before these vests. What was it like interpreting songs before you wore that? Could you kind of describe that for us?
Yeah, actually. Well, as I said, I'm a profoundly deaf person and I can hear maybe a dog or a plane or maybe a car horn honking. So, but it's very vague. And otherwise I don't hear, like when I'm on stage, I don't hear anything. So that's why I need a hearing interpreter to be one-on-one with me so I can copy the signs of that hearing person because I can't hear anything. So when I put on the vest, I definitely felt some more bass. I felt like the intensity of how much music was going on. It made me feel more connected to the music. Also, I feel like these vests are very inclusive because after so many years, this world is really, really focused on voice, speech, hearing, radio, for example, not that it's a bad thing at all, but it's very audio centric, right? And it can be very exclusive to the deaf community. But this time I felt like there was a huge opportunity to collaborate and include the deaf community and our experience with music. Maybe we don't experience music exactly like you guys as hearing people, but we, as a universal language, we should recognize that music is just that. It's a universal language.
Shelley, you talked a little bit about music genres and how maybe not knowing the difference between a rock and roll song versus a hip hop song previously, and then wearing this vest and the sort of vibrations might be different across different genres of music. I'm curious if there's a particular genre.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, if there's a particular genre of music or sound that sounds or feels particularly good or that resonates with you personally in some way, whether it be through the vest or through, you know, previous experiences with sound and music? Or maybe that changed as well. Maybe your understanding of genre has changed in some way. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, yes and no. So I can bluntly tell you that the more bass, the better. Okay, for deaf people, for myself, right? What was different this time was when there was when there were violins or piano sounds, I had cues on my wrists and my ankles, and then there was also vibrations in the back of the vest. That was different from what I would normally feel. So like higher tinny sounds versus like lower beats, and like the fluctuation of music itself. I got a better three-dimensional experience, if that makes sense, of music. Before it was just like boom, 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 right? So there were a lot of things in the air that I was missing that were translated into my wrists and my ankles. So that was different. And I was really in awe of that, right? It was a lot of stimulation, you know? And I was like, oh, I see what you mean. I understand what you mean. And Kevin Gotkin, who helped, his explanations of the translations of like filling in the gaps of what the music sounded like, that actually really helped me. I used all of those things. So it was indeed a very stimulating experience for me. Let's see, Brandon, do you have anything that you want to add? I mean, Brandon speaking, as a person who is a hearing person, who was raised by deaf people, who works with the deaf and music and dance and theater communities, I think these vests are, from Music Not Impossible, are a really revolutionary way to think about how deaf and hard of hearing people can be on stage and be cued by the music that is playing without having to rely so much on their eyes. Because deaf people often have to rely on, it's a visual language, they're visual people. So, you know, a hearing person doesn't have to rely only on light cues, and a deaf person shouldn't either. And I think, you know, if the day that a deaf person can be on stage and close their eyes and feel a vibration and go, I will be really, really excited. So, and Shelley says, I second that. That's actually what happened to me on stage when I was interpreting there were a couple of moments where I was like closing my eyes and just like feeling the music, you know? And when I opened my eyes, I was like, okay, we're all on the same page. Like the music's not over, right? That's never happened before. So that's a really special thing. And I was just enjoying the music. And that's the whole point, right?